I'll give you some insight on how powerful the mind is. And we all have this because we all have this subconscious within us. Um, I went through this Anthony Gailey seminar, and this guy taught on, he was a hypnotist, but he was also an educator in terms of demonstrating the power of the mind. And during the class, it was a dog and pony show, bringing up people that got hypnotized. And it was hilarious because he had people doing goofy things. But he had each and every person in that room make a tape of the things they wanted to achieve in the next 12 months. And it's basically your voice playing, and you're making these statements of, I want to make X amount of dollars. I want to list so many, I want to sell so many houses. I want to do this, this, this. And I did that, and I put that in my car. This is back showing my age here, cassette tapes. I played that cassette tape every morning when I went to work, and I hit everything I stated on that tape. I hit every single goal.
Welcome to the NEXCUE Mindset. I'm Stephen Garner, the resilient life expert. And today I have the privilege and honor to have a conversation with Mark Vilas. Mark is a seasoned real estate professional with more than 40 plus years of experience in the industry. A third generation realtor. Mark's family roots in real estate go back to his grandfather's founding of Dutro Realty in the 1950s and his father's Vilas and Meister in the 1960s. He became licensed in 1980 after an aptitude test pointing him toward real estate, and has been serving buyers, sellers, investors, and first-time homeowners ever since. Mark's business philosophy revolves around what he calls the platinum rule. Treat the customer the way they expect to be treated. And I can say I have had that great experience firsthand. His experience as an investor himself gives him unique empathy for clients with diverse financial goals, from investors to families. Over the years, he's received multiple industry awards, including the prestigious 5-star real estate agent recognition and Coldwell Banker International President's honors. Clients and colleagues describe Mark as a trusted guide who builds lifelong relationships, shares wisdom generously, and simplifies complex financial decisions in real estate. And I have to say, too, you are a man of integrity.
Thank you.
You have a very endearing spirit. And since I've known you, it's been a pleasure just to get to know you as a person and work with you. So I'm so happy to have you today, man. I'm so excited.
Well,
Thank you for joining, Mark.
My pleasure.
Yeah, thank
Good
you.
to be on.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much. Hey, listen, so home ownership is a tricky thing in today's world, and there are a lot of challenges and a lot of reports saying that many people feel like the American dream is slipping away. Is that the perception, or is it something that's being exaggerated by the media? What's your take?
I think to some extent it is. We had this huge appreciation because of COVID, shortage of inventory, which caused housing prices to go up abnormally. I mean, they just went crazy from 2020 to about 23. But I think one of the things I've noticed, and this is not to judge generations, but I think when I was growing up, in order for my wife and I, and it was rough times in the 1980s because we had double-digit interest rates, which compare that to today, that people complaining about 6%. And when we bought, the rates were 14 to 15%.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah. I mean, so I just kind of go, well, okay, well, we all had to deal with difficult circumstances, at times in our life. But my wife and I, what we did, we had plans to get married. We had dated 2 to 3 years. We both worked 2 jobs and saved as much money as we could. And I had an advantage because I had the knowledge of real estate, kind of knew what I was going to need to do to avoid paying the high rate, which what we ended up doing is we assumed a VA loan, a veteran's loan, and took over a lower interest rate payment. So what we had to make up the difference between the balance on that person's loan and the purchase price, which back in 1982, that was $13,000 plus dollars, which was probably in today's dollar would be $50,000. So that's a lot of money to have to come up with for a first time home buyer back then. But we were able to, fortunately, thank God, do that. And again, that's, I mean, our idea of a date would be to, you know, like grab a lunch or a late dinner and pack it on our own. We go down to Serpentine Wall, and that was our date. So we wouldn't spend money on meals. You know, we just lived tight and saved the money. But I find that my dad always had this saying, like my dad's name was Matt, and I came up with the line at his eulogy. My brother-in-law gave his eulogy. He passed away 2 years ago, and we called them Mattisms. He had these little lines, and his line, I know he got out of a book, but people that work 40 hours, we call that a job. A job is just over broke. So the only way you get ahead in life, and the only way I've accumulated wealth is all the hours I put above 40 hours. And again, that was how my wife and I were able to save enough money. And I think in today's people give up too easy, and they don't put together a plan on how they can go buy that house. And there's a lot of opportunities. For example, there's grant money of $25,000 that buyers have access to. Now they have to qualify for it, but again, that wasn't available when I bought. I mean, imagine that. I mean, that's 10% down on a $250,000 home, and that's a very feasible, realistic price for a home in Greater Cincinnati today. So anyway, that's kind of my take. But again, you've got loan programs. FHA for a first-time home buyer only requires 3.5% down. So you're talking $3,500 down for every 100,000, and that's not a lot of money by today's standards. And a lot of people have 401ks on their jobs, and they can tap that to buy a home. So the thing is, I think a lot of people, my recommendation is seek a real estate expert and sit down and say, hey, can we put together a plan because I want to buy a house? And I mean, I'm happy to walk people through the process, and if they follow what I tell them, as long as they've got the income, they'll get there.
Do you
So
think the mindset from when you were coming up and now has shifted so much due to a lack of education? You said people give up so easily. There's some reason why you decided, you and your lovely wife, hey, we're going to stick through this. We're going to work above the 40 hours. Do you think the mindset has shifted? And if so, what is the cause?
you know, I mean, this would be total speculation. I think, and I don't want to judge households in terms of how they raise their kids or whatever. We made a focus in even raising our kids was I didn't want my wife to work outside the home and mom to be there for the kids when they got home from school, et cetera, et cetera. I got a daughter that's homeschooling 3 boys today, and they are all 3 geniuses. I mean, they're smart as can be, and uh, I believe more knowledgeable and educated than the average public school child. And when I grew up, every male in my family was successful in some way, shape, or form. We did not have really what I call any family dysfunction. So I felt pressure as a male growing up, and I was the only boy on top of it, to have drive to get ahead. I said, I cannot embarrass the family, if you will. And I hate to say that, but that's the truth. I internalized that, and I had more drive than the average person. And I think a lot of parents, they don't instill that. I hate to say that, but they just don't, they don't. sometimes they'll push sports like, oh, my kid's going to be a professional athlete in some way, shape, or form, which is totally unrealistic based on the
Right.
statistics. But you got a lot better chance of getting ahead in life in business or even being an entrepreneur if you're raised right. And I was raised in that atmosphere of the males. I had a uncle that was a builder. I had another uncle that started a well-known security company here in Greater Cincinnati. It's a multi-million-dollar company. And then my dad, of course, in his real estate brokerage and real estate investing. So having those people influenced in my life, they were all an influence. It it drove me. So
So, what was the biggest lesson that you learned from your dad that helped you to develop the mindset to work as hard as you did?
my dad was an incredibly hard worker. I mean, way above, in my opinion. He was a borderline workaholic in the early days, and then he realized it later on. But um, it was hard work, consistent, productive activity. Most people in real estate don't do the activities necessary to be successful, which is it's a people business. And if you're not talking to people, you're on the road to nowhere. They want, everybody thinks, all I do is sit by a phone and wait for people to call me. No, it doesn't work that way. Or you just get leads off the internet. And I've met agents at Coldwell Banker when I came on in 2012 that pay ridiculous amount of money for leads. And I'm thinking, well, you don't have any friends, you don't have a sphere of influence, you don't have a
Right.
network,
You
it's
have a
kind of crazy.
circle. Yeah.
What are you paying that kind of money at? So anyway, my dad, people look at me cross-eyed because my dad said, hey, make 50 prospect calls a day. If you said that to somebody today, they'd say, well, what drug are you on? They just wouldn't believe it. My dad said, yeah, it's like brushing your teeth every day. You just do it. And so anyway, I grew up with that. And I think it's funny because I found a different way to do it. Back then it was cold calling. When I came to Coldwell, I learned some new things, new ideas, and I already had a huge client base and sphere. So I'm thinking, well, why do I need to go call, people that don't know me from Adam? They might recognize my name, but they don't know me. I already have a good reputation. Let me just call the people in my base. And I started doing that. Oh my gosh, you talk about much easier. And and it and it was more pleasant. You know what I mean? Because you didn't have anybody hanging up on you. And when I call people, it wasn't like, hey, when are you going to send me some business? Or, when are you going to send me a referral? It wasn't that. It was to genuinely check on people to see how their life is going. How's the family? How's the kids? How's the family dog? I mean, A to Z, I'm asking questions. One of my dad's, to bring up his Mattism, was people don't care how much you know until they find out how much you care. So I would genuinely show an interest in my client base. And in that connection, I think people recognize the sincerity. I think just kind of what you brought up, because you and I just had a relationship. Um, and I always had a genuine, I felt like it was a friendship, even though we didn't necessarily do things socially together. I felt a connection with you. So I try to do that. I don't know how many clients I have that kind of relationship with, but it's quite a few. So
It's amazing how that mindset made me interested in doing business with you. Just the mindset and how you carried yourself engaged me in conversation. So you've helped a lot of people in your experience. What was the most challenging situation that you encountered with someone who said, hey, I want to build wealth, I want to buy a house, but I'm stuck, if you may? What was the most challenging situation you encountered with someone who's trying to get out of that
well,
hole?
I mean, as you know, have dealt with people all your life. I mean, I really don't have a scenario because you have people that you'll tell them what to do and they have the ability and the income to do it. But some people just, I mean, they can't get there. You know what I mean? It's just people making wrong choices. Um, But I mean, I've had customers, and I can thank God, after 46 years, I can only think of maybe five on my right hand where people were just completely unreasonable people. You know what I mean? People that they, and I don't care who you are. I mean, Jesus Christ walked this earth and got crucified. So, I mean, you could be the most perfect human, and people are still going to badmouth you in some way. They just don't like you for whatever reason. You don't know why. They might be jealous. You just don't know. Um, but I had a terrible transaction and my wife had got a real estate license for a very brief period. And it was a sale involving her sister and her brother, and this got customer that on the house that they bought, my brother-in-law bought, it just turned out to be a nightmarish transaction. And this guy thought he had the best house in the neighborhood, and he by no means did. And that's what made it kind of challenging. And in this day and age, it's easy to educate people and compare houses because you have interior photos. Back then, you didn't have it. This is going back in the early 90s. You didn't have interior photos, and I could point out to the guy, you've got stained carpet. You see this house? It doesn't have stained carpet. So which house would you want to buy if you were a buyer type of thing, but anyway, I think um most of the time in my career, I don't have challenges with buyers as much as it's with, a buyer either wants to buy a house or he doesn't, and he's going to do the things necessary to save the money, maintain a good credit score. Um, but I mean, I've had clients. I had a lady, and she never turned into a client. She'd call me like year after year, was educated on how to get her credit cleaned up. And every year she called back, her credit got worse. It didn't get better.
It got
And
worse.
it's like, oh, it got worse. I mean, loan officers have a simulator where they can run a credit simulation on what you need to do exactly to the dollar to fix your score to make it go up so many points in order to qualify for a certain loan. And she she just would do foolish things with her money and make poor decisions. It's like living above her means, and it's like, well, I don't even know why you're calling me. I mean, you're not doing what's necessary here. I feel like I'm talking to a child. But again, that's just some people. That's just their nature, unfortunately. But if people follow, and if you save just a little bit of money, every year with a goal to get to X amount of dollars to buy the house you want to buy. And I think some people have an expectation of wanting to start out living like their parents. Back in our day, I mean, I bought a 900 square foot brick ranch with a basement, and that was my first home. I'm selling houses that are 2,000 square feet to first time home buyers today, and I'm thinking, why? You don't need that much space. It's just two of you. I mean, buy something a little on the lower end and save some money, get ahead in life. So, um, I mean, my wife and I, always lived within our means. Um, and at times it was challenging, especially when I had two kids in college and the market collapsed in 2008, 2009, and I had to pay for a wedding. So I was under unbelievable stress. But you I mean, if I didn't have the knowledge I've had today, I don't know. I probably might have went under because we lost so much equity. House values dropped 30%. So on some rentals, we were literally upside down. Um, but anyway, I figured it out and ended up, everything to be a blessing when I got on the other side. And these last 10 years have been amazing. Uh, honestly, you have goals and aspirations to get to a certain place in life, but I never imagined I'd be where I am today. I feel really blessed. So,
When you face tough times, what type of mindset did you have to help you to overcome those challenges? What did you
well,
think? I
my
know.
faith, yeah, my faith is number one, but um, and my wife and I are both Christians. And I think without that, I don't know that I've been able to push through in some cases. But and then the not to reference the Bible, but wise man has many counselors. So always seek the counsel of other people. You are a product of the 4 or 5 closest people in your life. So associate with those people that are where you want to go in life, or have similar mindsets or similar goals as you. Because if you keep if you keep talking to people who are homeless, you're going to have homeless soon. You know what I mean? And there's nothing wrong with talking to people who are down, trying to lift them up, because I've done a lot of that. But as far as your focus, you want to be around people who are as bright as you or brighter than you, because otherwise you're not going to learn or grow. So I and I didn't know that in my younger days, but it seemed to happen kind of by accident. Maybe it was just a common sense thing. But I've read that in several books and been to seminars that have made that exact statement. So, but yeah, in order to push through adversity, um, I just said, Mark, how do you eat an elephant? If you have this big, huge, giant challenge, you eat it a little bit at a time, and you just say, okay, what do I have to do to get there? Okay, got to knock down this goal. Once I knock that thing down, go to the next one, go to the next one, go to the next one. And then before you know it, you got the problem solved. I think most people get overwhelmed as they look at the whole thing and think, how am I ever going to get out of this situation that I'm in? And you just got to take it a little bit like, a bite at a time, if you will, and in order to get there. So,
At one point in time, Kim and I, we were $100,000 plus in debt.
ouch.
And you are right. We went to a financial advisor and they shared just what you stated is one thing at a time. And we eliminated all the debt, credit cards, car notes, student loans. We had medical bills. We eliminated everything. Um,
Awesome.
you, what's the difference between buying a home emotionally versus strategically?
Well, emotionally is dangerous because you make impulsive decisions. And, if you buy a house emotionally, you're going to probably pay too much and buy something beyond your means. Strategically would be upfront to say, okay, what is my price point where we're living within our means comfortably? We can still save money, pay our other bills, and save for retirement. Um, that's strategic. Emotionally is just out on a whim. Okay, I went to my loan officer and they said, based on my debt to income ratio, here's what I qualify for, and that's what I'm going to buy. And not paying a lick of attention to, okay, well, when I get this mortgage payment every month, what's going to be left over for all the other bills based on your lifestyle and how you want to live. And people don't do that. I mean, not all people, but there are a fair amount that just say, "Oh, tell me how much I qualify for based on my income, and that's what I'm going to go buy." And then they go,
Right.
"Oh my gosh, I can't afford this." I mean, I've had buyers. I had a This came from a referral from somebody my son went to high school with, and it was this gentleman's sister, and nice lady. I mean, nice. She had a couple of children, and she wanted to start out big, and she wanted to start out with a brand new home, and she was an RN, and she had the income to qualify. And these builders will jump through hoops on whatever loan programs they have to get you qualified. And I thought, yeah, I said, buy a used home and buy it in this price. For no, this is what I want. I talked to her, I was blue in the face, and I was done. Okay. I sell her this brand new Fisher home. And sure enough, 2 years later, I get this phone call. I'm in foreclosure. I'm 4 months
Wow.
behind.
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
And again, it's like
Mm.
I could see the handwriting on the wall. I mean, I just know, I don't know. I've been around enough people, but there was no convincing her. She had to experience that. in order to get educated. Well, today she don't even own a home. It's like 4 years later. I ended up selling the house and getting her out from under the foreclosure, but she's renting a house today. So she doesn't even own a home. If she would have followed my advice, she'd be living in a house, building equity, and she'd have a decent amount of equity today. Now she's got nothing. So
Hmm.
I hate to say that. Yeah.
There's a debate with you. You mentioned renting and buying a home. I talked to a friend and he said, "Hey, I'm going to um, eventually buy a house right now renting." And so there's a debate where people say, "Hey, you're waiting too long to buy a home." Are people waiting too long to buy because they're trying to time the market, or they don't understand the market, or the
I
financial
think it's
side of
that.
it? Okay.
Yeah. I think they're listening to the media too much, and everybody's saying, oh, you can't, house prices are too high. The average first time home buyer last year was 40 years old. 40 years old. It's ridiculous. I'm thinking 40. I was on my third house, having,
Right.
yeah, we had owned a house, that ranch I told you about, and then we bought a bi-level in Pleasant Run, and then we bought the two-story on Galloway, and that was all by what, 1991. So, but yeah, I think, and people don't understand that while you're sleeping at night, most homes historically they're going up 3% a year in Cincinnati, uh, on average, and that's been about the average. Well, think about that on an asset that's worth. We'll just use 300,000 because it's an easy number in my head. It's going up $9,000 a year. You're almost saving $1,000 a month. Just paying the mortgage. You know what I mean? Not to mention you're paying the mortgage down if you're disciplined. So I don't think people understand money. I don't think they understand finance. The one rule of thumb when it comes to money that my dad taught me, and I don't know how old I was, probably in college. I was 18 to 20. But rule of 72, have you ever heard of it? I don't
Yes.
know if you've heard of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, it's how long it takes money to double. So if you take what your average return is going to be, and we'll use 6% as an easy rate of return. You divide 72 into 6, that means it's going to take that investment 12 years to double. So if you have $100,000 and you can average 6%, you'll have 200,000 and in 12 years. Well, if you're a young person and you can start saving money early, it's at that back end where you really get wealthy. So I'll give you an example using that. And the only reason I'm explaining all this is because I think if people grasp this, I think it's one of the most powerful uh, thoughts. If you implement it, it's really the best way to get wealthy. So if you're 18 years old and you managed to, I don't know, save $100,000 by the time you're 25, and, and a safe number on returns 8%, and you can think at the back end. Now, I'm not going to go through every time it doubles, but let's just say that 100,000 from the time you're 25 to 55 years old is $1 million. Well, that last 8 years, if it when it doubles again, it's 2 million. You see the concept?
Yeah.
I mean, it's ridiculous. So wait a minute. Just by me accumulating a million, that's why that first million is the hardest to get to. If you have $1 million and you can get it to double in 7 to 8 years, which is not unrealistic, you're going to have 2 million on the other side without you contributing a dime. So that's why saving money early is a big deal. So I try to preach that. My kids follow it. I know my son is. I've helped my son managing money, and he's 38 years old and he's already worth about $400,000. So he's done well for himself. So,
Is it? a matter of education or just behavior? I've heard this phrase, money management is 80% behavior, 20% knowledge. Is it more of an education or behavior? Where do you stand on that? Because you hear all types of experts say this, and I'm listening to you, and there's a lot of wisdom you're sharing, and I'm wondering if most people don't know, and that's why they're not doing the things that you're saying. What's
Yeah,
your take?
I think it's some of it, but I think if people grow up in a household where they're, even if they don't know what to do with the money, but they save the money, they're going to be a lot further ahead. So it is I would say that 80/20 is pretty accurate. If you can get the education to a certain extent and know how to invest it, you can make that money grow exponentially faster, and obviously I grew up with the mindset you don't want to work for money, you want money to work for you eventually to get to that point. And I mean, my wife and I, thank God, have arrived at that point now, but it didn't come without a lot of blood, sweat, and tears to get there. But I think most people don't even, I don't think some people even can grasp that thought process because they live for the moment. Like, I want to live for a day. I don't care. And I mean, I've had conversations with people that live like that. And it, it's just crazy, in my opinion, based on how I see life. But, that's, we live in a free country. You can do whatever you want to do. But I think people don't understand at the back end, especially at this stage of life, um, to not be able to do the things that I'm able to do now with my family. Like, we rented a house for next year down in a place called Miramar, Florida, Sandestin in the Panhandle. And I never dreamed I'd be renting and we have our own place in Palm Beach, but I haven't rented. It's a condo I have rented down there that we own. But this place will accommodate our whole family. I mean, it'll sleep like 8 to 10 people. And it is just, I mean, it's beautiful. And where it's situated, they're providing us 2 golf carts to get around. And it's a golf cart community.
Remember,
It's
I'm
just
part.
so
Remember, I'm part of your family.
yeah. Yeah, well, I might call you there, Steve. We'll see
Man,
how
don't, hey,
that goes.
hey.
But yeah, seriously, the thing is to have goals, and that's another thing. I'd say setting goals and have them written down with a deadline and make them realistic is probably the number one, another big important thing that I always had every year. I'd set my goals every January with deadlines. I want to be here, I want to be here, and you break them down quarterly. And that really helped me, um, to get to where I am today. And I think most people don't have written goals. They have to be written down. If you don't write them down, it's just a dream. But if
Mm.
you write them down and with deadlines and they're realistic, then you can get there. Um, to tell you how powerful, there was some tapes. My dad was big on education and tapes. Paul J. Meyer was an educator, and I remember listening to those tapes over and over and over again. And and I followed his advice as far as goal setting to the T. And I'm telling you what, it played out. And I'll give you some insight on how powerful the mind is. And we all have this because we all have this subconscious within us. Um, I went through this Anthony Gailey seminar, and this guy he was a hypnotist, but he was also an educator in terms of demonstrating the power of the mind. And during the class, it was a dog and pony show, bringing up people that got hypnotized. And it was hilarious because he hated people doing goofy things. But he had each and every person in that room make a tape of the things they wanted to achieve in the next 12 months. And it's basically your voice playing, and you're making these statements of, I want to make X amount of dollars. I want to list so many, I want to sell so many houses. I want to do this. And I did that and I put that in my car. This is back showing my age here, cassette tapes. I played that cassette tape every morning when I went to work. And I hit everything I stated on that tape.
Mm.
I hit every single goal. And it just it's ingrained in you. You know what I mean? And you don't even know it's there, but that mindset is driving you to that goal, to achieve it. So that's why I say we as humans, we don't know what we can achieve, until you write it down, you make a deadline. And if you believe in your heart that that's what you want and you have the plan to get there, you'll get there. You will get it. You'll get it done. So, and that's within all of us. We all have that ability.
And in
So,
your experience, you've seen people who, regardless of their economic status, their geographic location, culture, when they set goals, they achieve them. When they followed
if
a
they,
plan.
yeah, if they do it, yeah, they do. It's funny because I have some people that, you don't know, I don't know who God's going to bring in my life sometimes. I've had to mentor people, but and then we've even had people that we had hired for work as painters, and they were in prison, and they got out of prison. They couldn't find jobs through anything else. But I always say, well, it's biblical. Eyes are the window to the soul. You could tell a person who they are by looking into their eyes, and know whether they still have evil in their heart or not. Sometimes people just fall into bad circumstance, but I have a guy that I just absolutely love. I won't mention his name, but he says, it's funny, Mark, I have three mentors in my life and they're all named Mark and you're one of them. I think, well, that's cool. I said, I'm glad to hear that. But yeah, I'd watch this guy. He had ended up in jail. He just was a teenager and he ended up getting in a fight and he ended up getting arrested for assault and he went to jail for a brief period of time. But this guy is probably one of the he's the closest thing to a saint that I know. Anyway, I mean, he is just such a good human. He's got a wife and two or three kids, and he answers the phone. Many blessings. That's how he answers his phone. His text message response starts out with many blessings. I said, I'll accept that. Absolutely. Just has a good heart and wants to be helpful. Um, but anyway, I love it when God like brings a challenge into my life. I've had people, I had a widow with COPD, had a house paid for, total absolute dysfunction. She was on the verge of losing her money because she couldn't pay her taxes. And I had ended up helping her out. And she wanted to stay in this house until she passed. And she achieved that goal. I mean, and I helped her with it. But I mean, she had horrible family. She had two kids that were drug addicts. And I mean, I could write a book on all the challenges she had. But anyway, I that gives me at this stage of life, stuff like that gives me energy because I like to help people out. So
So you've seen people when they set their mind to achieve a goal, they stick to the script, they make adjustments, they always come out on the winning side. Um, what would you say to a young person today who's saying, "Yeah, Mark, I hear you. You know, the American dream is still far from me." What would you say? Like, here's the first thing you need to do. What would you say? Like, because I
well,
know young people like this. The
I'd
first
say
thing,
you need good income. I mean, what's your income? I mean, if you're self-employed and you're skilled, if you're in the trades, you're going to do well if you're good at your job. I mean, my goodness, that's pretty much assurance that you're going to do fine. I'm worried about other people in the workplace with AI on the forefront because it's going to take a lot of jobs in the next 10 years. But yeah, I think it's just saying, okay, here's what my income in realistically, because you get two choices. If you have higher aspirations to buy something that you can't afford now, you better you better get more income. You better improve your skill set to make more money. Now, if just say a young person, it's not unrealistic for somebody to come out of college making 70 or 80,000 a year today. You just set a goal to save, at least in my opinion, 10% of your income a year minimum. And then if you have a 401k at work, max that out. And then once you get, I usually don't like people to just buy a home with 3.5% down, because you're paying them the mortgage insurance, and the closing costs are excessive, and you're going to pay peak price for the house. But you're better off that than you are renting. I mean, in the long run, in my opinion, as long as you're not buying in a market where houses are way overpriced, and houses are, in my opinion, are not overpriced. So they went up commensurate with a shortage of supply. So yeah, could we have a little bit of a correction? Yeah, but there's still a big market out there for buying houses.
Based
So
on the value that they yield, it's really still a good investment. So you would say the young person should make sure they have education, whether it's formal or something that will help them to develop the skills to get a good job, whether it's a trade, what have you. Um, Invest in purchasing a home, make sure that it's within their means. I heard you say, make sure that it's not outside of their means. What would you say though when they encounter a challenge? Do they change their goal? Do they make an adjustment? I mean, what would
well,
you say?
depends on the challenge. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, you have to figure out what do I have to do to get back on the path I was on, basically. I mean, if you hit something, every human being is going to run into a challenge. I mean, it's just
Just
it's
life.
just life,
Right, right.
and it's your job to figure out, how do I get out from under this, or how do I get around it? How do I correct it? And yeah, I mean, after 66 years almost on this earth, I mean, I've seen humans overcome incredible challenges. I mean, incredible. And when somebody says I can't, I say, well, I'm sorry. You have that mindset. You absolutely can. You just have to make up your mind to beat it and overcome it. So it's just human choice. Some people just give up too easy, and you just have to figure out what the problem is. What do I have to do to solve the problem? And then go to work on doing it. So that's all it is.
Because the real American dream is fulfilling the purpose of their life. That's what it sounds
Exactly.
like. Listening to you and I hear these things, and you said, "Hey, I have a house for my family." It's not the house. It's the opportunity to put your family under one roof and create these great experiences. Is that why you strive to do the things that you have done?
I think it is. I enjoy helping people. I just always have, in whatever capacity it is. Um, Seeing myself kind of as a servant. Um, and I mean, all of us, it's an ego boost when somebody comes to you and says, "Oh my gosh, you did a great job, and I appreciate you, and oh, we're so happy here." I mean, that gives me joy. And then you watch these people. I'm on what, second generation people. I'm seeing people that I sold houses to. Well, I hate to say it, I got clients passing away, which is a very sad thing. But um, I see people with grandkids, that just like me. I mean, I sold my house when they were newlyweds, and now they have grandkids, and I'm like, dear Lord. So, but yeah, it brings, and then when people come back, that's a testimony. I've had people I've sold 3, 4, 5 houses to, and they're stepping stone in life, and um, start out in something 900 square feet, and then they end up in something, $500,000 at the end, and it's kind of cool. But I think, the big thing is um, you know, if people the people would listen to everything, the advice. And again, I don't have all the answers, but I believe I have a good knowledge. And I always laugh when people will take an advice of somebody that's not doing nearly as well as or a family member that has struggled in life. They'll listen to them, but they won't listen to me. I got a net worth 5 times what they have. I'm thinking, okay, whatever you want to do, you want to continue to follow that path. Good luck with that. I hope it works. And it's not, I don't say that in a way to be condescending, but seriously, I mean, I even as a kid, if I met people were really successful in life, I was all ears. I mean, I want to hear what you have to say because you obviously know something I don't know. I want to know how you got there, kind of the questions you're asking me, what was your motivation? What got you into what you're doing today? And what do you recommend to people today, coming up in this working world we're in? What do you recommend? What direction do you? I got my son, he's a senior buyer for a big company in the United States, and he's making good money, but he's thinking about making a switch to a trade at 38 years old. I have a client of mine. He's a relative of my brother-in-law, and this guy started an HVAC company from scratch, and that guy has done unbelievably well. I mean, I don't know how much he's making a year, but it's stupid money. I mean, he's just killing it. And I sell about 4 or 5 HVAC systems for him a year. I'm not kidding. Oh, I got this client. I got a customer that just rehabbed 2 homes in an estate. Her brother passed away, and she put 2 new furnaces in both houses. And those were, off of, my referral to this guy. And he's got a house in Indiana, in Lawrenceburg area, 35 acres with a big pole barn. And then he's got a house in Florida he just bought 2-3 years ago, and it's worth $500,000. And he carries it without renting it. So he's done phenomenal. And I sold him a lot of houses that he's flipped. Like he's bought some houses and he's rehabbed them in addition to doing his HVAC company and running it. But he is a hard worker. I mean, he works hard. And those are the people that I've seen succeed in life. Again, it's that job thing. They're not working 40 hours a week. They're working 7 days a week in many instances, but that's allowed them to enjoy their life at this stage, as they get older. And that's my recommendation to people. Until you get ahead, you can't afford to work 40 hours a week. You got to work more than that. So,
final cues. What would you say is the most important life wisdom a person needs to succeed, to be their best self, to live their best life, to be successful? What's the most important nugget of wisdom you would share today? What's your final cue today?
well, mine is faith. I think if you don't have a belief in God, that you're gonna have challenges in life that you can't overcome. And if you don't know your maker now, you're gonna know him on your deathbed. You can ask Steve Jobs and a bunch of other atheists. They found out, and I don't know if you've ever read things on people on their deathbed, but a lot of them say, "Oh my gosh, did I miss the boat?" type of thing. I mean, the joys of life. I think God has brought me a lot of blessings, and I think that's the number one focus. And then beyond that, it's just discipline in life. And the word disciple came from discipline. Well, Jesus had 12 of them. And if you can follow the path of being a disciplined human being in every aspect of your life, I'm not going to get too far off here, but I went to a seminar, and they drew out what I call the wheel of life. And inside the wheel, you had spokes, and each spoke represented an aspect of life. And you had your faith, God in one part of it. You had mental as another part, education, job, career, family. Um, and I might be the physical side in terms of taking care of your body. And so if you can keep that wheel balanced, you'll live a happy life. Most people, they'll focus on one thing and that tire gets flat and they don't know why they're not happy or miserable. So trying to be a good time manager and balance that out, you can't help but be successful if you follow all those things inside that spoke. So
Mark, thank you so much. I appreciate your wisdom today, your knowledge, and your expertise. It has been a pleasure talking to you. Hey, let my audience know how they can reach you. Do you have a social media handle? Is there a phone number? I would
yeah,
love to let them know how they can contact you and get more great wisdom and even buy a home if they're interested.
all right. Yeah, my cell phone is, I mean, I answer, I usually answer people within 2, 3 hours. It's 513-535-5262. Again, 513-535-5262. The group I'm with, I'm on a team called the Cagney Group. We promote ourselves on Facebook media. We're on every day, and you can follow our new listings and kind of see I'm part of the team. A little by the way, we were number 4 in the United States of all Coldwell Banker median teams in the United States. There's 5 of us. We sold 198 homes last year. So we uh, we do well. And I merged with this team, my group, because of their ethics. They had the same beliefs, business philosophy as me in terms of serving people, and ethically they're on the same line as me. So yeah, you could the Cagney Group, and they do a lot of promotion, and if they have any workshops or anything going on, they'll advertise and promote it through their Facebook. So
Thank you
yeah.
so much, audience. Mark Vilas, take your cues from him and live a great life. Next cue. Thank you for listening. I'm on a mission to teach the world how to develop a resilient mindset to overcome all their challenges. You might be wondering, why am I bent on accomplishing this feat? Well, it's simple. When I was at my worst and lowest moment, many people poured into my life and helped me to overcome all my challenges. When I asked them what was their motivation, they simply said someone did it for them. And then they asked me to make a promise to do it for someone else. You can help me to fulfill that promise by simply subscribing today and help me to teach the world how to live their best life. I'm Stephen Garner. Take your cues from me and live a great life. Next cue. Let's go, baby.